Hi, people often ask me what it's like to work with my wife, and to be frank with you, we've been married for 42 years and been in business for 28 years as 2020 Development Company, and I think 17 years as Container Parts. And before that, I had my own company, which was Phoenix Marketing, which she wasn't daily involved in, but she was the wife of an entrepreneur, and that's always a challenge to be the wife of an entrepreneur. But over the years, our business and our personal life have grown and flourished because we do work together. We work out of home, as you can see, and I've worked out of home probably, 27 years at least. And she's worked in the back office, so I have my office here. She has hers back there. We get on Teams regularly instead of walking back there or calling or hollering out. So we'll Teams back and forth between each other, both with the camera on and sometimes just typing to figure out what's going on. But it hasn't been a problem. There are times when you sit back and you think, "Gosh, is our marriage more of a business partnership than a romantic partnership?" But then you realize that it's much more than either one. The combination of the two makes it that much more special than what other people have. Our lives have been intertwined. They know what I know what my wife does. She knows what I do. She interacts with the people I interact with. She understands the problems. Instead of just me coming home and going, "Oh, I had a problem with this person," she's also engaged when you have the problem with the person. She's also engaged when you have a problem with the shipment because she knows what's going on because we're interacting. We do, however, have two businesses, both which were started as a result of kind of metamorphosis and changing throughout our careers. And she runs one of them, which is containerparts.com. I am kind of they say I'm the seagull. I fly around, I swoop in, I steal a French fry, I shit, and I leave. And that's kind of the way I do the business too, is I'll come back there with an idea and thought. And because I have ADD, my mind's always turning. And I'll come back there and I'll bounce off 3 or 4 different things, and her and everybody go, "What? What are you talking about?" Not realizing that they haven't been in my mind and understanding what I'm understanding and seeing what I'm seeing. But because we are married, she understands that. We've also had my daughter and then my son-in-law from my other daughter's husband involved in our business. And that again works out well, but it also can be some challenging times. My daughter had a hard time separating the when is it work and when is it dad. You can talk one way to your dad, but you talk a different way at work. And you talk away at work and you talk differently than your dad. And in this case, it was the same. And sometimes she'd say things like, "I'm your father." And other times you'd say things and you're like, "I'm your boss." So it was difficult doing things that way. The son-in-law, there was never that challenge. He didn't challenge us on the thought process. He was always challenging us and pushing us to improve and to do more. But because he wasn't in a position or didn't feel he was in a position to challenge me, and like my daughter did, my daughter really kind of tried to manage me as a daughter will and her father. And when they see everything that you do. Now we have 2 grandchildren and really take our time, even with my daughters, when they were going to high school and grade school. I was there for most major events. If there was a dance, I came home. I did travel extensively in the earlier days, but I made sure that my schedule was built around what their schedule was. In my early days as an entrepreneur, when we were first starting 2020 marketing, Jennifer worked at the school district, which was great because the school district, one, she was there at the same school as my daughter, so she understood what was going on. She saw who their friends were, so a little bit of infringing upon their individuality, but she was never directly involved with them, but she could see them in the interaction with other students and stuff. But from a business standpoint, it was great because she had teacher benefits and teacher health care, and that extended on to the family. So even though her pay wasn't huge, the benefits to us, getting health care in the United States as a small enterprise and small business is crazy expensive. And it's one of the challenges that small businesses have is how do you take care of the health care? You can't afford not to have good health care, and we can talk about that in another session. But with this case, we worked out to where she worked with the school district, so she got the health care there. So working with my wife has not been a problem. It's the problem that you do have is you sit down for dinner and you have one of 2 things to talk about: the children or the work. And I work hard, and she works hard, and we have our dinner, we try and take the dogs for a walk or whatever. But then later at night, about 9:30, 10 o'clock, we're WhatsApping or Teamsing each other saying, are you ready for TV? Are you ready to relax? Because she's back in her office doing her work, I'm in my office doing my work. And we set a goal. A lot of people think this is crazy, but our goal is to be done with work at 10 p.m. Doesn't always happen. A lot of times I'm working 10, 11, and she tries to stop at 10 and kind of resettle things and do the household chores, and which we try to share. I don't do as much with those as I should. But anyway, it works out well. The challenge is to make sure that you communicate effectively. It comes back to the charm dance principles: communication, honesty, appropriate quality, risk. All those things are involved in a personal relationship. And they're involved with your wife and your children and everybody else. And when you're in the same business, it's, a lot of people can't work with their spouses. People don't like to be told what to do. And in some situations, the boss has to tell people what's going on. There's challenges. So it's like, I need the financial statement. Well, she's busy, but I need the financial statement. So, there's some friction there that comes down, and, can be brought at the dinner table. We'll be brushing our teeth upstairs, and it's like, oh, hey, did you call so-and-so? So you don't really leave that behind. So to be able to have a business with your spouse, you have to be a special kind of person that can understand that, and you try and separate it. We do have a situation where we have a vacation we take every year, and we go to Hawaii, and we try and reformat our hard drives. We go and we just chill. Now, I'm not one to sit in the beach and get sunshine. I've had actually cancer in the face several times. I've had Mohs surgeries to remove it so I'm not going to sit in the sun, and I'm going to lay by the pool. And I don't read novels, which is kind of interesting. So they'll be laying by the pool reading a novel. I'll be upstairs writing on my book, writing on another book. I'll be working on something, writing a proposal or whatever. But we still get away, and I know when we go out to dinner in Hawaii, we're not going, hey, business, 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 business. It's much more chill. So you need to make sure you have the time to take the chill and to spend time together as individuals and as family. We've got a very strong family. Our family is really the core four plus the spouses and the grandchildren. But in that nest and that culture and that cycle, we're all very involved. Now, with things changing in the businesses, now my son-in-law is out on his own and has his own job. My daughter is now working for Microsoft and has her job. So we're kind of separating that, and they're growing on their own, which is great. It's great to see them do that. I miss them, and I miss their engagement in the business, but it's something that had to happen as things matured, and as we get older and closer to retirement and kind of setting up the future and stuff. So that's about all I have to say about working with your spouse. Patience, and remember the charm dance. Communicate. Be honest with the communication. And appropriate quality means that you have the quality you to address the situation appropriately. Risk. There's risk in everything. And I think in the book I talk about when we were young and in early marriage, my wife prepared salmon, and she put dill on it. And she asked me, how was the salmon? Well, I don't like dill. But we were newlyweds, and I said, oh, it's great. Over the next 25 years, I had salmon with dill on it. Finally, at one point in time, I got brave enough to say, I really don't like dill. She goes, why didn't you tell me? It's like, well, because at the time, that being honest with you was not as important as keeping you happy. And that's something we have to think about, is how do we keep those around us happy? People have always said, Jim does what Jim wants. And that's true. But the first thing that Jim wants is for his family to be happy. And I think that's important.